All right, so we'll get started as we let people populate and join the session. We wanted to share an experience in this past year that we think really encapsulates the kind of impact that the Asia School of Business is having through our work with our students and the efforts of our faculty. I think this video is super impressive, so please enjoy. Sound okay?
So the practicum is a unique action learning kind of project that we do at ASB. It's a week-long project where we involve up to 60 students working on one site on one big problem broken into smaller pieces.
This is practicum is a concentrated version of action learning.
This is our first one in an agricultural setting, outdoors, and with farms spread over many, many kilometers of space. And it's focused on sustainability.
Taking 60 students to a confined building, a factory building, is very different from taking them to an open plantation areas.
Here in a oil palm plantation, but the lessons that you get from here, the challenges, they also translate to the challenge of many other industries. Really, when you think about sustainability, you're talking about changing a paradigm of how you do business, how do you incorporate different issues to your operations.
We came here with the expectation that there's going to be a lot of quick wins and low-hanging fruits that we can work with. We really have to dig a bit deeper into the problem and really get our hands, roll up our sleeves and get our hands dirty.
It's relatively clean and easy to talk about sustainability in a classroom or in a lecture. But once you bring people out into the field, into the farms, into the details of any given situation, it's not so clean and easy.
I'm all sweaty, I'm all dirty, but it's been great, very rewarding.
The amount of strength that's required to pull down one palm fruit is insane. It's a Herculean task. Then I asked the guy, how long does it take for you to pull out the fruit? And he said 1. And I was like, oh, 1 hour. He said, no, one jerk.
Stakeholders out from multiple angles, from the faculty, from the CSS team, from the students, our peers themselves, but more importantly, our esteemed partnership with Procter & Gamble and our association, Bertaniaga.
Our mission here is to ensure ethical and responsible sourcing of oil palm. At the same time, ensuring that there is no deforestation, no plantation on peat, and no exploitation happening in the supply chain. One of our goals is to take these farmers on a sustainability journey. Sebelum saya menyertai persatuan tenaga, cabaran saya adalah ilmu.
Right now, of course, our target is the oil palm plantation and the small owners, the independent small owners. But when they are managers dealing with multiple different industries, I do hope that they take into consideration of all of these angles, the government, business players, manufacturers, consumers, and of course, the vulnerable groups.
Sebagainya pula mak saya tu tak boleh ditinggal kat rumah seorang. Jadi saya bincang-bincang dengan adik-beradik, apalah sayang baliklah, dah 2 tahun ni saya baliklah untuk jaga mak. Arwah bapa saya meninggal, jadi saya menjadikan kebun ni.
Management, there's a tendency that we zoom out and we take a step back away from where all the action is. We need to look at the strategic lens and we need to look at the bigger picture. But sometimes we lose too much when we're so far away from the ground.
I have a confession to make. This is not my first time in a palm oil plantation. My late grandfather, he used to be a small folder farmer as well. And here's my confession. We weren't yet compliant. We didn't know the best practices. It's been 4 years since he left us, and I do wish that he was still around for me to share all the things that I lived with him. I see his presence in the farmers that we met, see his presence in the community of Bahad.
And most of our farmers are elderly, they are old. So it also requires a behavioral change. And more often than not, we would like to see upfront what is in it for me, which is again difficult to show unless you have something as a model farm right in the center of the community. And some farmers from within the community act as ambassadors. Tapi setelah saya menyertai pertaniaga, alhamdulillah banyak tunjuk ajar yang diberikan oleh mentor-mentor saya untuk penjagaan kebun dan dapat menghasilkan kualiti buah dan kualiti berat buah yang kita akan dapat.
Yang perubahannya tentang penjagaan, tentang khususnya daripada pelepas sawit tu kan. Dulu saya tungguk tu kan, pergi bakar tu kan. Bila dah tahu, tak bakar lah.
Business and everything is about communication, right? How are you going to be able to communicate with other people if you don't understand what they're doing? So in here, we're doing that. We're precisely understanding what are the needs, the challenges, and in order to get something bigger, it starts from the ground.
A very good exercise and let's say hands-on experience to apply everything I learned in Professor Charlie class of operations. So for me, it's a good experience, especially that I want to go into the direction of sustainability. At the corporate office, we always think about, okay, let's do change management, let's change the process on the ground, let's tell the people to do things differently and, you know, make it more efficient and basically help us make more money. But it is very different on the ground. And when you have a smallholder, a farmer, you know, he's not actually able to change like how we expect it overnight.
PNG is committed to playing a positive role within the communities and environments in which we live and work, and where we source our materials. This takes us beyond responsible sourcing and compliance monitoring to become a catalyst for change, a force for good, to achieve positive outcomes for communities, individuals, and the environment. Smallholder farmers globally are responsible for growing 40% of all palm fresh fruit bunches. Enabling the adoption of more sustainable farming practices has the potential to both improve lives and grow sustainable palm production and supply. At PNG, we are committed to working with these farmers through our partnership with ASB and CSS to enable them to transform their livelihoods through more efficient and sustainable farming practices.
We have had some success. We have had about 20 learning farms that we have until now. We are trying to make, our target is to reach 100, hopefully by the end of next year.
Saya dapat maklum balas daripada rakan-rakan yang bukan ahli pertaniaga yang luar daripada saya. Dia melihat ada perubahan di kebun saya dan cara saya menguruskan kebun, dan mereka semua mengucapkan tahniah kepada saya dapat menjalankan tugas dengan baik.
All right. Every time I see this video, I get chills. Hold on 1 second, trying to stop it. All right. Thank you. Great cameos by Masra and Haka who are here. So good to have you all on board. Let me put up my PowerPoint slide really quick. We'll go from there. So. All right, almost there. So thank you all for your time. For those who don't know me, I'm Sean Ferguson, Senior Associate Dean at the Asia School of Business. I've been in this business for about 17 years now. Prior to that, I was in corporate world, FMCG. I actually used to work at Procter & Gamble, so always a special place in my heart in the energy industry, management consulting, and then used to be a product manager. And so I've been on different boards in Asia, Europe, and the USA. So feel free to connect with me. We're really excited to have you all here today. We have an amazing panel with two of our powerhouse women students about to be alums next week, Gabrielle Burnett and Masra Zulkifli. They're standout performers, and they're going to share some insight. But before we get to them, I just wanted to talk about some things here, since many of you on this panel are new to ASB. In general, you see that in the video, the kind of work that we do. We're looking for frontier-minded, impact-oriented individuals who really want to change the world and build a global career. You know, our value proposition is built around 4 pillars, that MIT Sloan DNA, but really adapted for this region, right? And making it relevant for Asia and the emerging world. 1/3 of our courses are taught by MIT Sloan faculty. We have a flexible curriculum. Entrepreneurship, we have the entrepreneurship track that's embedded in the curriculum. And this year we've launched concentrations in finance, data analytics, and supply chain. Another hallmark element of our program is experiential learning, right? The challenges of the world today are, you know, complex and interdisciplinary in nature. And so they don't sit cleanly in a domain of finance or marketing or what have you. They're cross-functional. And so through action learning, people are able to learn domain independent problem solving skills via our Smart and Sharp Skill initiative. And you know, they develop the ability to succeed in the most challenging environments. So if you couldn't tell in that video, it was hot, it was sweaty, maybe a little bit uncomfortable, but ASB students figure out a way to make it happen. And as a result of this, we were able to, you know, these kind of activities, we see transformational career impact. So in a recent version of our first alumni survey, looking at alums who graduated in our first 2 classes, 80% of the alums got promoted within 3 years of graduation. Salaries for, and just to give you some context, like typically at some of the other great schools I'd been at, that number is usually around 50%. And we believe that action learning and that experiential orientation in the program is a differentiator. And when we see what does that mean, the salaries exceed the average for the Financial Times top 100 programs. That's what we benchmark to. And now what we're seeing, when I came to Asia 9-10 years ago, it was really about coming to Asia and doing work in Asia. But now Asia is relevant everywhere. 47% of our alums are outside of Asia making an impact. And then, this experience, our mission mandate is really about the advancement and development of Asia. And so we have market leading financial aid. We have need and merit-based discounts and scholarships. Students have access to interest-free deferred payment post-graduation. And we're really committed to providing access to the emerging world. We're excited because what we're seeing now in Asia is that the border restrictions are opening up, and it's allowing us to return to a place where we can do these kind of interesting experiential projects, right? Malaysia's been a fantastic environment as far as ensuring the safety of people here. In May, the border opens, so all you need to do is be vaccinated, and then in April to come in, and then in May, no more contact tracing. This was just the practicum that we showed you, again, a slide on that. Also, this year, we've been able to go back to MIT for the first time. So the class of 2022, Masra and Gabrielle's class, they got to go to their MIT immersion, the 4-week immersion that they should have done in April 2021, but they had to do it in January 2022. Only downside is it's really cold at that time in Massachusetts, but I think it was still a transformational experience for them nonetheless. Then after that trek, they were able to go to the Middle East on our Dubai trek, and that was our industry trek. And in the past, we had gone to China for these industry treks, but this time around, because China's not open, we did it to Dubai, and it was kind of a great once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because the Dubai Expo 2020 was going on. We were also able to meet with 20 corporate partners, and then the students engaged in a climate change hackathon with one of our partners, VPS Healthcare. The 2023s, they just are getting back now from the normal time, which is in April, which is a little bit warmer. So, but even then in Massachusetts, you can see they're still bundled up in April. In addition to the oil palm practicum that we talked about earlier, the students also had a chance to go on a sustainability practicum. And so that was awesome. We went to an eco resort called Batu Batu off the coast, the eastern coast of peninsular Malaysia, a project over 5 days, similar to the oil palm practicum, solutions for energy management, waste management, social sustainability, marketing management solutions were provided. So another transformational initiative. It was great for everyone involved. Let's see. These are some of the testimonies. If you want to see the links and get to know these people, Patricia's first year. Penny also is one of our leaders, and Michelle as well. So they're talking about the MIT experiences that they've had, here. So we're really excited about the return to normalcy here, and we think that bodes well for continuing to deliver the transformational experience that we have. Additionally, this year has been great, and I think this part is really relevant for students, is enhanced employer engagement continues to be a strategic priority in Malaysia, in Asia. The MBA is not as known a brand here, and so we have to be very assertive with our corporate development. And so we've had a lot of outreach beyond just Malaysia and the UAE, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, and Vietnam. And we're also, using digital marketing. While Vivian's very involved here on our admissions digital marketing, she's also helping us with our corporate digital marketing. And what this has done is really continue to broaden, the ASB brand with different employers. On the full-time side, we've had, placements at McKinsey, Accenture. Gabby's working at Kearney Post Business School. We've had our first ever placement in Dubai at Kraft Heinz. FinTech placement at Experts in Singapore. And then for the summer associate program, a lot of new names, first-time employers here. So we're really excited about what the future holds. And yes, Google, we're going to add Google to here. One of our students just got an offer there as an inclusion manager. So not just different companies, but also different kind of roles as well. So with that, I really want to turn it over to the showcase of the panel and talk to you guys, just facilitate a discussion with Gabrielle and Masra, two amazing women, I think who are couldn't be better ambassadors and representations of what the ASB alumni community and student community are about. Gabrielle, before ASB, worked in China as the head of the Beijing office of Capstone Education. She's fluent in Chinese. She's fluent in Chinese, and after business school, she's going to be working as a management for Kearney in the Toronto office. She got her undergrad at Mount Holyoke College in International Relations. And then we have Masra, she's a superstar as well. She got her master's in engineering in Imperial College. And I think if I remember from our admissions interview, I don't think she's done any chemical engineering since graduating, but she has been making her way as a sponsored student up the ranks at Sime Darby, joining as an AVP in the corporate finance group, and now being promoted to manager of portfolio strategy, which, these are just examples of people and how they step change through as a result of the program. And so I'll turn it over, and Gabrielle, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you'll be doing after business school.
Sure. So Sean gave like a really nice overview of me. So let me fill in the gaps. I'm Jamaican, born and raised, and studied in the US and studied international relations. However, I worked in educational consulting in mainland China, mostly because I wanted to be in an environment where I would be able to exercise my Mandarin skills. In addition to Mandarin, I also speak Spanish and Portuguese. Mandarin is, of course, my strongest because I lived in China for such a long time. And post MBA, I'll be working in Toronto. I'll be going back to the West. And after, I think it was like 7 years, after 7 years of being in Asia, I'll be heading back to the West, and I'll be working at Kearney as an associate, which is the equivalent of management consultant for like McKinsey or those folks.
Masra, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Masra. Great to meet all of you here today. So as Sean has introduced, I studied engineering, chemical engineering. It is a passion academically, but inside Derby, there were a few opportunities, but I wasn't too keen at that point in time. So I've mostly been working around the sphere of strategy and corporate finance, M&A, and I did corporate finance and M&A for many years. And after a while, my managers basically said, look, Masra, you've been doing a lot of this, is very good. As part of your talent management and kind of progression and planning for your long-term career, you have to get closer to ops. And, we were looking at ideas for what kind of roles could I take. Some did seem a bit, maybe I was a bit too scared to, maybe start selling things to businesses. But when I found out about the MBA, it just basically gave me an in into figuring out what I might be interested in doing that's closer to operations. There's marketing, there's ops, there's supply chain, there's everything. So yeah, this was actually my way of getting closer to operations, and that's why I then landed the role of portfolio strategy for one of our large divisions.
Fantastic. And so what compelled you to consider the MBA at that point and gave you the sense that you could do this at this particular stage of your career, Masra?
Yeah, so again, it was a bit more of I was a sponsored student. So I was with Sime Darby for a few years, and it was time for, okay, do I want to keep going in the kind of very corporate kind of role, kind of head office role and 10,000 feet from the ground, or do I want to get closer to the ground? And in trying to figure out how to get closer to the ground, which is something, that makes sense if you want to get promoted, being a progression towards, say, senior management, CEO level, you have to have more ops experience. And in figuring that out, I took some time to figure it out. And then when this MBA came up, we thought, okay, you know what, this is a great way for you to figure out what you want, learn a lot more, even if you don't, without going and being in those roles for a few months at a time to figure out what works for you, start to understand, start to learn, start to figure out best practices, and then narrow down what are you interested in, and then also how I can apply it to what my next role would be. So that was great. That's how I, came about learning about the MBA, and why I decided, you know what, I think this is the best step for me, rather than throwing myself into a completely new role, having no clue whether that's what I'm interested in. Actually, via the MBA, I figured out what works for me and what I was interested in, and I just learned so much more that I could apply in my new role.
So Gabby, for you, you were, an international relations major. You had been in Asia. What was the motivation for getting an MBA in Asia at a school like ASB?
Sure. So when I initially went in China, I was first working in management consulting, but it was mostly market entry, and it was mostly with larger companies. So it was like a lot of manufacturers, and it wasn't really interesting to me at the time. And I also wasn't having the opportunity to use my Mandarin skills. So I decided to work in educational consulting because I felt it would give me an opportunity to interact with people in Mandarin, and also it was like a new challenge. I started off in the Hong Kong office, and then when we opened an office in Beijing, my boss was just like, oh, we need someone who can speak Mandarin, and my apartment in Hong Kong was really tiny, so I was just like, oh, sign me up, send me to Beijing. I went to Beijing, and because I spoke Mandarin fluently, it was very easy for me to navigate all aspects of the business. So I wasn't only working with clients, I was also working in the back. I was working, doing my role. And then when I became the head of the office, I realized that there was a lot of gaps that I just needed to fill in terms of management. My boss at the time, he went to Booth, and he was very helpful, but there's still some things that you could really only learn through experience. So I thought, well, the next step would be, and the next logical step would be to do an MBA. Now, knowing who I am, and someone who learns through action and learns through experience, so I wanted an MBA that had a lot of experimental learning. So I only looked at MBAs that had a large experimental learning component. So at the time, I was focusing on MBAs in the US, in Canada, in Europe, because that was just what was familiar to me. Asia, an MBA in Asia just never occurred as a possibility to me, because I was just like, well, I want that experimental learning component, and that's not typical of what happens in Asia. So when I came across ASB, and I heard about all the action learning projects and how integrated the experimental learning component is in the curriculum and a part of the entire MBA experience, I was just like, oh my God, sign me up. This is exactly what I needed. And especially for someone as myself who is very curious, and I've had a lot of different roles. I've tried a lot of different things in the past. My resume reads like a nice little skip jump, I think someone had mentioned that it was like a monkey bars, you just skip and you jump to another thing, and you try new things and try new challenges. Doing an MBA with action learning that allows me to nurture that, not necessarily a skill, but nurture that love of exploring different industries and exploring different roles to really figure out, is this what I want to marry and do for the rest of my life until death do us part, So for me, that was what really stood out for ASB. And then also being in Asia and coming to a very diverse school really gives you a different perspective versus when you're in the US. It's a little bit more comfortable. It's a little bit more at home for me. But coming into someplace that's different, it really pushes you outside of your comfort zone and really allows you to stretch yourself beyond the limits that you perceived for yourself.
Fantastic. Now, Masra, you were corporate sponsored. How did that decision process go when you were thinking about the schools that you could potentially choose?
Yeah, so Sean, for me, I guess, I think the first gate for me was that I I knew that I wasn't keen to actually take time off, like full time off work and then go off for nearly 2 years. To me, I was still very interested in working at the same time, and the fact that this working professionals program was available was what started things off. I mean, I'd heard of ASB for a while now, and when I finally, a few years later, when you guys introduced the WP program, that's when my interest peaked, right? And I spoke to my HR, and I must say, thankfully, it did coincide with the time when we had been trying to figure out what next for me, my career progression, right? And then, speaking to HR about, okay, why would it make sense for me to do this versus, placing me somewhere else in the company? Would they be interested in sponsoring, and how would that look like in terms of, other potential, getting bonded and all of that. But the conversation actually flowed quite well. I think there was a lot of information flow between the school and my HR already. So the moment it started, my HR didn't have to come to me for all the information, like they spoke to the school. So the program office did a good job there, I think. And then it was on my side to say, yes, I really want this. HR, please, and manager, please, allow me to, spare a little bit of time for me and be a bit kind to me so that I can take time off to do the MBA. But I would say make sure that HR and your manager fully buy in. Then that corporate sponsorship kind of like makes it smooth sailing for you, right? That, yeah, they're behind you the whole way.
I think that's a great point. I always tell people this is a big commitment, and you need to make sure your bosses are on board. Your boss is at work and your boss is at home, right? And so, so maybe getting people on board with that. A lot of people kind of overlook that step because when you're in the working professional program, sometimes your weekends are no longer yours, or your evenings are no longer yours. Can you talk about that experience, Masra?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess I'd say for me, one thing I was lucky would be one word for it, in the sense that I did have less bosses at home. To be frank, I did not have children, but I actually know a lot of my classmates do. So a lot of those who have family commitments, and so anyway, on my side, I had to basically I brought my managers through the timeline, the timetable given by the school. When it comes to residencies, how often would that be? What would that be like? And then what kind of courses am I taking? How does it evolve over the nearly 2 years? And so setting expectations was absolutely important. And kind of saying like, look, making sure that the team, it's not just the managers, it's the rest of the team as well. So if your team members at the office are bought into it and say, yes, Mazar, we support you, there aren't going to be any hard feelings for if you have to take a little bit of time off here and there. We're all in this together. That made a very, very, very big difference. And then I see what Gabby said about a full-time student who gave birth. So there was even a working professional student who gave birth. She's in the intake, the 23 intake. And she gave birth and she still managed to do her exams a few weeks later. I tutored her for finance. But you see, so it's all about having everyone behind you, if it's your partner, your children, your family, your work. As long as they are aware of what's going to come, make sure expectations are there. And at the same time being, you empathize with them as much as you want them to empathize with you. So it's a lot of managing emotions and managing, speaking to people and making sure that it's not just, hey, it's all about me, it's about us. What the benefits are, what benefits are you going to get, boss and team? What benefits are you going to get, husband or wife and children, from me having done this MBA?
So thanks, Masra. So one of the things I wanted to get a sense of is like, what is the thing that you all liked or valued most about the program and your experience? Gabrielle? And then we'll come to you, Masra.
Sure. For me, that would be very easy, the action learning. I mean, it's really why I chose ASB in comparison to all of the other universities I was looking at. Now, what I appreciate most about action learning is that it removes all of the mystery from other companies or industries or roles that you're considering and you're wondering about. It's very different when someone tells you their experience working in a particular field versus when you go through it. Because when you're speaking from experience, it's sometimes very easy to color over some things or just like, you know, don't mention everything, or you're speaking from your perspective. So if you have this intrinsic desire or love, or you're drawn to a particular role or industry, you could speak with it like very highly of it, and you're, you know, like subconsciously very biased. So when you're talking about it to someone, it's really exciting, it's something you love, and also vice versa. If it's something you hate, it's also what you're projecting. But when you have the opportunity to do the role, and you're interacting with real companies, and you're solving real problems, and you're being in, whether it's virtual or in person, I had the opportunity to do both. So having that experience really gives you a nice peak. I say peak because it's such a short period of time. So you're not really seeing the entire picture, but you're seeing a nice peak, and you're tiptoeing. I don't say walk because again, it's a short time. You're tiptoeing in somebody else's shoes. You're having the opportunity to see, oh, this is what you do on a day-to-day. This is how we react when, you know, there's some type of chaos. This is how we solve problems. This is how it works in this particular industry. And it really allows you to realign what your goals are, but also allows you to gain additional skills from different industries. So for example, when I was doing my final round interview for Kearney, I did my first action learning project in the healthcare industry. I was working with Johnson & Johnson, and I knew nothing about it. I chose it because I thought, well, you know, it's COVID, healthcare is probably a big thing. Maybe I need to know something about it. The partner that was interviewing me at the time, he was the head of the healthcare practice. So when he saw that on my resume, that was a nice speaking point for us. He was just like, oh, you worked in the healthcare industry. Like, I'm a head of the healthcare practice. So he was very intrigued, and it also made, in my opinion, I'm not 100% sure, but it made me a little bit more interesting, because here I am, someone who has no related academic or professional experience to the healthcare industry, but I'm still able to hold a very intelligent conversation about the healthcare industry because of the experience I had working with the Action Learning Project.
You know, that's a great point. You know, I'm also responsible for the career side here at ASB. And, you know, when I compare the impact of action learning to the resumes, you know, at other institutions that I've worked at, it has a transformational effect on our students and our ability to position them in the market as a totally remade, you know, product with a level of expertise across multiple ranges of industries and functions. So great point, Gabby. Masra, what has been one of your favorite elements of the program?
Quite a few, actually. I think from at the start, it was that I could do the working professionals course, so I didn't have to take time, like full-time off work. And that just gave me the flexibility that I thought I'd never have if I wanted to do an MBA. And then along the way, I think, sorry, I know it's not just one answer, but I think the MIT immersion was also another really special thing for me. Getting to go there and kind of get into, you know, their infrastructure, how they really look at things, which is actually translated very much into ASB as well. And that was just epic for me. And the professors and all the you know, the kind of breadth and depth of knowledge has been great. Even the practicum, the practical hard practicum, actually so I come from Sine Darby, and we're a big plantation company. And I had never seen and experienced the kind of an all palm plantation the way I did at Batu Pahat, you know, as people who own the company just go there and look like, cool, nice. But this time I actually got to go and actually, you know, try to harvest, try to figure out, okay, what's wrong, how is it like for, you know, those plantations not owned by big corporates. And it was an eye opener for me. You know, I thought I knew as much about plantation that I needed to know, but no, I learned so much more. So I think this very hands-on, the practicums are, really great at learning. MIT was amazing, and that I did not have to take nearly 2 years off work.
So I have a question, and I thought about this as you were talking. You got your prior education at a UK school, and then a lot of Malaysians tend to be more familiar with the UK system versus the American system. Can you talk about the differences in your observations?
Yeah, it's really it's very different, honestly. And you're right, being a Commonwealth country, most of us have studied in the UK. The UK system is a lot more regimented in the sense that, if you are taking a course, for instance, for me, I'm taking chemical engineering, and that is fixed from the start. If you wanted to change, you would have to go through a lot of process and all, but you're taking chemical engineering, these are your courses. And then later on, there's some electives that maybe would be outside of the chemical engineering sphere realm, But in the US, and even in the MBA, it was just, here are the core courses, everything else is up to you. You get to decide. You get to take a few different things, pick and choose, and then, realize what works for you rather than be told that just follow this and you do that. So I think it's very different. It's also a lot more coursework heavy in a sense, and that actually helps us learn a lot better rather than just sitting for final exams. So I'm much more appreciative of the US system now than before I had experienced it. So I think it's pretty cool. And now I'm even contemplating in the future when I have kids, maybe they'll go to the States instead of England.
Yes. Well, all right. All right. Great. So one of the things I'm going to ask one last question before I open it up to the audience, and I have a bunch of other questions. But at this point, it's 3 months before the program. What would you have done differently, knowing what you know now 3 months before the program? We'll start with you, Masra, and then we'll go to Gabby.
So a few more. So for WP, there are some things which I will say, but will sound a bit silly. Things like get more sleep, set up or get ready for set up your workstation at home. Okay, so frankly speaking, we have been in COVID for a few years now. 2 years, and everyone probably has that. But when we started in 2020, I guess I had not set up my life, my workstation, my everything to be ready for I can check out from work, check into MBA. And that's actually a big part for a WP, knowing when to draw the line rather than, kind of get, sometimes everything gets very muddy. You're doing office work while you're doing your assignment, that just doesn't work. So you have to know how to kind of check out from something and check into something. And then I wish I had also engaged my manager and team a lot more in the 3 months before, rather than as I started and my manager said, oh yeah, I knew you're doing that, and yes it is, but explain again how often you be away or how much time you need and all of that. And I had to do that, kind of, at first I got stressed, but luckily my manager was quite nice about it. But I should have maybe done it a lot more and been very clear, gave them the materials to see, if, kind of open the door to between HR and my manager to really kind of comfort one another. So set expectations this first 3 months before, set up your life ready for it. So you're ready, it's not a scramble. And then honestly, get more sleep. Now that you can travel, get that traveling bug out of your system, get all of that, because as a WP, it is going to be intense. It's going to be very rewarding, but you have to be ready. So get all of that out of your system right now.
All right, thank you. Gabrielle.
I think I don't talk too much about the academic portion in terms of preparing for the parts of the MBA that you feel like you're weak in. I think that's a little bit more intuitive. I feel one of the things that I would tell myself if I had the opportunity to is to relax. I think throughout the MBA, every class, every exam, it feels like it's the end of the world, right? And you put so much pressure on yourself. You're actually aging yourself. You're losing sleep. You're not eating well. You're stressing. It's just, it just wears and tears on your body. I feel like I would tell myself to enjoy the experience and the journey a bit more, and realize that this is a learning experience. This is a time for growth, and growth is it's uncomfortable, but it's a part of life, and we should go through it. And when things get tough, I'm not saying that you should like get that A or push through for that exam or anything like that, but do not perceive it as, if I do not get this A, my life will end tomorrow. Just really enjoy your time, enjoy your experience, connect with as many people as you can. Don't lock yourself in a space and think that you need to be this academic. There's so much more to life, and there's so much to experience. And the MBA experience is not only an academic portion, there's so many more components to the MBA. Ironically, a lot of people in the US go to take an MBA not for academics, but for the social aspect. So just let that kind of like sink in, that people are actually doing this for not grades. They're doing it for the opportunity to be in a community with like-minded, motivated, and individuals who like challenges, who like solving difficult problems, people who are like always percolating with ideas, and people who are really going to change and make things happen. And these are the individuals they want to be around. So, you know, focus on the grades, but don't let that be your only focus. Do not be too tunnel visioned.
All right. So thank you, ladies. Excellent responses. We have a question from Farah. She is an outsider and plans to do an MBA full-time next year. She has an international relations background, and this is, I think, geared towards you, Gabby. I don't have she says, I don't have a math problem, but how do you ace the examinations for the quant prep and that kind of thing? And how does the exam structure look like here? Also, how does it feel personally working across various sectors in healthcare to one another, given your international relations background?
Hi, Farah. So excited to see you on the IR major. So let me give a little bit of background. So I actually chose IR because I felt like it was the only major in college that would allow me to take classes across everything. I could take econ, I could take computer science, like anything I could tie to. It's an international relations problem. So that's one of the reasons I chose IR. So I was always very interested in a lot of different industries. Unlike you not having a math problem, prior to the MBA, I had not taken a math class since grade 9 because I went to a British boarding school. So very regimented. After you finish it, you no longer need to do it. So I had not. So stepping into math was an interesting experience for me because it's something that I had stepped away from a long time. However, I hope this doesn't sound cliche, but it's like riding a bicycle. You practice and you get better. You just like math. My mom likes to say math is a very jealous lover. You leave them alone and he or she holds it against you. But once you give them some attention, they love you again. So just practice, make it a part of your life. And that's also something I also had to learn for consulting interviews, how to do quick math, because math for me was just like slow. I show you my steps. If I get it wrong, I get some points for my steps. But consulting was like, we need the answers. We want to hear the steps, but it has to be real quick. So again, it was a lot of practice, integrating it into my life, putting away my calculator, trying to do math before the cashier gives me back my change. Simple stuff like that, just integrating it into a part of your life and making it a habit and exercising it is really good. And across industries, for me, it was very exciting. I really liked the opportunity to learn more across industries. I think it made me better at small talk and conversations because like I could meet someone. So I worked, so my action learning, I did entrepreneurship, but it was in bathroom technology and also sustainability. And I also did healthcare. I worked in finance and fund management. I worked in blockchain and I worked in healthcare. So I was very interested to learn as much, and I felt like I wanted to go in the industries that a lot of people are talking about, the industries that was on everyone's lips. At the beginning of the academic year, it was COVID, so healthcare made sense. And then later into the academic year, when COVID was starting to calm down and everybody was starting to get entrepreneurial, it was entrepreneurship. So again, that made sense. And then for my summer associate, I worked in digital finance. Again, COVID, everybody at home, it made sense. And then I went in ESG in fund management because again, COVID, so it really just made sense. I think for me at the time, I was pursuing passions or things that I was interested in, or I piqued my interest and I wanted to delve deeper. As an IR major, you come in with an econ background, you come in with an understanding of different cultures in different countries. So it's a comfortable transition. There are gaps and spots that you have to fill in of the technical side, depending on the subjects you took as an IR major, but it's not impossible, and I thought it was extremely fun.
All right.
If I could add a bit to what Gabby was saying about getting through the exam and all of that. Actually, the school actually does provide quite a bit of assistance. I remember we did the quantitative analysis. So there was a quant class, statistics basically class, and there were prep videos before you even started school. So anybody, let's just say you've not done any math whatsoever. Maybe you are, I'm sorry if this comes off badly, I'm saying maybe you're a lawyer or you're a social worker or somebody who is just not touching math, not touching Excel at all. The school actually helps you kind of, light touch, get familiar with all of this. And then once you're in, there are also, obviously there's the academic associates, there's the professors, and there are also student tutors. Myself, I tutored for finance, and accounting as well. So, the school offers help in many ways. And if, see what you're comfortable with, and if at the end of the day it's just another classmate or usually it's a senior classmate, then yeah, feel free to reach out. The school will give you a list of tutors, and then, try them out, see who you like, and then you never know, you end up learning, that's maybe what can really help you ace your exam, if that's what works for you. So yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about that. And your classmates, that guaranteed each class will have a few pros in, anything math related, anything accounting, anything finance, and these guys will kind of rally the whole class, forward. So that's what we see so far, and that'll be great.
So given that you don't have any questions in the chat, can you guys talk about, building off Masra's point, just the culture of collaboration and support amongst your classmates and how impactful it was in helping you kind of, get through this experience?
Yeah, so I guess I'll just start first. I think, I honestly I found that our cohorts have so far been really collaborative. The competitiveness that is there is more of all of us moving forward. Let's make sure we know we're doing our best rather than, me versus you or my team versus your team. And I think that's been a great experience. Maybe the school's admissions is so good at, bringing in the right people. But at the same time, I think if the right vibe is there and everyone exhibits the right vibe, then everyone gets in on it. You don't even feel that you need to be competitive in the sense that, I bring myself up, I push you down. So that collaborative vibe has actually really helped me learn a lot. And all of us work together. So yeah, I love it. I think ASB so far has been a very positive experience for me in that sense.
Yeah, so I can add to Masra's point. So I could give very specific example. In the first semester, we had study groups, and in our study groups, we quickly realized that everybody kind of had their own little strength. So in my study group for accounting, we had someone who was actually an accountant before the MBA, and this was a beginning, an intro to accounting class. So it's just nice and easy breezy for him. But the rest of us were struggling. So, he actually before the exam, like went through an entire past paper. So we got like a past paper of like a previous exam. He went through the entire thing and really taught us to, how do you think through this problem? This is how you tackle this problem. And if you have any questions, let me know. I took a supply chain class, again, because I was exploring my interest and I was struggling. And we had someone who was not in the class, but someone who worked in supply chain before the MBA. This was not a course he was taking. He was not obligated to. This was not one of the core courses. This was an objective. And he offered to really, you know, help us, our classmates, and, you know, all of the people enrolled in the class by really giving us tutorials for free in his own time, and really make sure that we understood it in a way that was intuitive for us. So he would try to understand, explain it to us, and then understand like where are the missing gaps, and then also try to help us fill those. So like throughout the MBA, we have had like impromptu tutorials led by individuals who are strong in a particular subject, because ultimately we all want to see each other succeed. Like everyone, like Mazra's success is my success, and everyone's success is everybody's success. So it's not more so of like, if you're successful, you're taking away from the pot. It's more so if you are successful, you're adding to the pot. So I want to make sure you're successful so that we can all be successful as a group. We're a small school, we're a small community. So we're all really trying to really, you know, push everyone forward and support anyone in anywhere that they might be falling short in.
All right. I think that's a great encapsulation of how we do things. I think Calvin Lee had a question about, one last question for Mazra. What was the aha moment where you realized you wanted to pursue in your career? Where you realized what you wanted to pursue in your career?
Yeah, hi, Calvin. Hi, Calvin. I have to admit, I had many aha moments, and all of those kind of added to more, okay, I want to do so many things now. Because, you know, when we did ops, like one of our first course was actually operations management, and it was just so profound. And some of the things were not even rocket science, but it was profound in how, wow, if we just did that, if we just did this, even in my daily life, you know, maybe certain things I do, like I go to the hospital and I see certain things, and if we just transformed it the way we learned in ops management, wow, you know, things would change. And then we started doing more and more. So frankly speaking, I had so many aha moments that when an opportunity came up to do portfolio strategy for one of our large divisions, I took that, because I mean, strategy was not unfamiliar to me, but you know, I feel like during the MBA, I kind of honed some of these skills. But I felt that by figuring out the bigger picture, and then it's strategy, right? So we sort of narrow it down, and then, you know, when we focus it, and maybe when it comes towards executing some of it, that's when I can say, okay, maybe I want to get involved in executing that. I'll be in the operations team, or the team rolling it out, the marketing team. So I wanted to go bigger, and then within my company, when you know, when we shape a few things, whatever's most interesting to me, I want to jump on that. So I'm sorry I don't have one aha moment. I just had so many, which in a sense I prefer having so many. You know? I like my choices.
So a couple of other questions. You know, any book or reading that you would recommend for an inspiration really quickly, and then I'll answer the last question on the GRE.
So many books, Sean.
But inspirational books. So
I think one good book is by Stephen Schwarzman. He is the
BlackRock.
Let me just get.
So while she's getting that book, I'll talk about the GRE. I think the GRE, it only helps as far as giving us a data point on your ability to handle the quantitative rigor and the nature of the program. As an MIT Sloan partnership school, the bar is pretty high, and so it helps us understand, you know, will you need quant prep or not? You know, do you qualify? You know, are you a conditional admit versus non-conditional admit? But we don't look at it in fine gradations where you got a 150 versus a 145. It's more of a satisfactory versus unsatisfactory thing. What it takes, why what it takes, Masra, and we'll close with that.
Well, the book actually, so Stephen Schwarzman, the CEO and founder of Blackstone, so he relates his experiences in a very well relatable way, you know, rather than being all high and mighty or very complicated, very you know, big words. It's very easy to kind of to tune in to what he's saying. And I think, and I'm not the only one. I actually know so many of my colleagues and you know, even my friends and family. A lot of them have read this book and they said this book is a game changer.
All right, thank you for sharing. And so while this is late in the cycle, one of the things, you know, I always joke with the team, there's no deadlines for superstars. And so for those of you, our upcoming deadline for the Working Professionals program is June 15th. And if you are the full-time program, all the deadlines have passed, but we continue to be most flexible with Malaysians because there's no, great book, Gabby. Thank you for sharing that. For the full-time program, we can be most flexible with Malaysia because there's no visa considerations. That said, you know, we encourage you, if you'd like to apply for this cycle, we'll do what it takes to find a spot for you. If you're the right fit, you can schedule a call with me or the broader admissions team to find a time. Masra was a late applicant, and so, but like I said, when we find superstars like her and Gabby, we will climb mountains, cross seas, and do whatever it takes to get you in the program, all right? So let's give a round of applause to Gabby and Masra. We really appreciate your insights. Thanks to the admissions team for pulling this off. And everyone have a great evening and upcoming weekend. Oh, Gia Ronco, difference between ASB and other uni MBAs. I think the transformational nature of this program is what sets us apart from everyone else, right? Happy to discuss more with you on a schedule a call. These women are found on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with them, all right? Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.